What do you think of the Duron Carter situation? You've watched him from afar. You've seen guys. What do you think is a?
I grew to appreciate him a lot more than when he first came here. I'd watched what had happened in Montreal, and I knew that he had great talent, but he could also be a challenge for the coaches and for the team. But he did show a very good side in terms of dealing with the public and the fans and the kids and so on. But, it's a tough spot for Chris and the coaches. They got to do what's best for the team. And one of the things I learned about the coaches and general managers and so on is nobody cares more. Nobody has more at stake. I mean, they understand it's their jobs, their livelihood, their passion. And so they're just consumed by it. And so to cut a Duron Carter it's a gutsy decision because you're subtracting some talent. There's no doubt about that. But obviously, the feeling must have been that they would be a better team without him, that they could be a better locker room. I'm not privy to what goes on in there, and I'm not sure. You hear stories, but I have no more inside knowledge than the average fan right now. I don't spend a lot of time talking to the football people. I'm still friends with Jeremy O'Day, and we chat, but you move on. So I think though that they really felt it was time to send a message to the team about what's important, and obviously they've got confidence in the guys that they've got still.
Pardon me, I should have had another Slurpee for breakfast. What impact does it have on an organization when there is a story like this? And I'm not commenting on whether it's a positive story or a negative story, but it's a story people are talking about and opinions are divided. And it does have an effect on the brand because people are talking about it. I don't know if there's a parallel here, but you were the president CEO in 2008 when Kerry Joseph was traded a few months after winning the Grey Cup and Most Outstanding Player. And again, it's a player-related transaction that has people quite emotional in some cases. When there's something like that affects an organization and that has an impact on the organization to the extent that people are talking about it that much, what's it like to be in that chair? What's it like to be with the Rough Riders when there's such a big story out there?
I think overall it's a good thing because it shows the investment that the fans have, the community has. I mean, it's better than being in Toronto where, players get cut, players get hurt, and nobody cares. And that's really sad because, Toronto has the potential to be a great football city. It's a great sports city, but the Argos are still struggling. So I always thought it was a positive. There were times you got frustrated because you could not go anywhere. You go to get your laundry, go to get a coffee. No matter where you go, you're going to run into people who want to talk to you about I went in this morning to grab a coffee, and a older couple were there getting coffee, and they said, "Hey, we were watching in the huddle last night, and they were talking about you." And so, I still get that. So you got to appreciate it. And as we talked about earlier, you can run, but you can't hide. But one of the things I learned was that the really big events, Kerry Joseph, Kent Austin leaving the team, Kent Austin coming back to the team, Eric Tillman, key players getting cut. It's a really big deal out in the fan world, but the team tends to move on faster. They're shocked. They lose a friend. They maybe not agree, but they tend to kind of get back to their focus. If they're a good team, they do, which is we got to play on Sunday, we got to play on Saturday, and it's next man up. And that kind of comes from the injuries too, because you have to harden yourself as a player to seeing a good friend get hurt and maybe lost for the season, maybe lost, forever. And so it's next man up, and you move on. And you may have personal feelings, but the team tends to move on faster sometimes, I think, than what the football world does. And particularly if you've got a head coach that keeps you focused, a head coach like Kenny Miller, Ken Austin, they would bring the guys back to reality. When you brought up Kerry, I remember we were driving, my wife and I, in a rental car in Florida, and Eric called me and said, I'm going to move Kerry. I'm like, just let me pull out of the ditch here while and we talked about it, but I mean, I was, and I still remember my wife saying to me, "You're not going to let him do that." And I said, I'm either going to let him do it or I'm going to become the general manager, and I'm not going to become the general manager. So I got to trust that Eric has a plan, and he's implementing it. And I may not be happy, but I'm going to support him, and that's the way it is. So you kind of you see so many things, and you kind of get to the point you say, this too shall pass, and hopefully it's the right decision. And of course, that's the thing that Coach Jones knows. He'll be proven right or he'll be proven wrong, and he's going to wear it, and he knows that, and he accepts that responsibility. It's better than a GM that can't make a decision, that just is frozen because of the expected or anticipated response. And I found that with Eric, he made some big calls, and some of them blew up, and some of them didn't, and some of them were, like bringing Kent Austin back was a stroke of genius. But when he first told me he was going to bring Kent back, I didn't think that was maybe the best thing. But so you got to trust your people, and hopefully they deliver.